From the View My Sports studios, it's The Breakdown with your hosts, Roger Tillis and Chuck Olesker.
Today's guest on The Breakdown, he's a former college football player, sports parent, youth coach, and life mentor, John Awad. Hi, welcome to today's edition of The Breakdown. I'm Roger Tillis, your host for the day, here joined with Chuck Olesker, the co-host, and our very special guest, Coach John Awad. And we call him Coach because he is a football coach, lacrosse coach, soccer coach, life coach, mentor. Do they call you Coach at the family, homestead?
Well,
keep it clean.
My kids sometimes wish I wasn't their coach, if you know what I mean.
Oh yeah, certainly. Well, we've got a great show set up today. We are very excited to have John join us. John comes with a lot of extensive coaching background. He is involved heavily in the community, which is something obviously that we talk all the time about, so we're going to get into some of those facets. He's also the general manager of the Florida Falcons, which is part of the Gridiron Developmental Football League. Kind of an aftermarket, if you will, for the kids that, get out of high school and they're kind of trying to find their way, whether it be getting into college for scholarships and things of that nature. John is instrumental of that and doing a fantastic job. I think, and I've been involved in semi-pro football way back when, and you see these leagues come and go and you see how they're set up and they're just so ragtag. You guys do a fantastic job, not just from a football perspective, but taking care of the players as people, and helping them out. We'll get into that a little bit, I want to get into a little bit about John. I want to find out now, obviously you were an athlete growing up.
Yeah, I was, and it started like most kids in the backyard.
Sure.
That's a big thing today that most people don't do a lot of. Is they do a lot of this,
right? Yeah.
And they're spending more time texting and spending more time on their computers than they are out playing. And so, I just grew up playing ball and learning to love having a ball in my hands, and whether it was a football or a baseball or a basketball or a bat or whatever.
I was going to say you're probably whatever the season you were doing it.
Absolutely. We made up games. It was incredible. I mean, we had Frisbee games. I mean, we had every kind of game that we could come up with. So, playing sports was my outlet. It was my way. I like many kids, parents were divorced early. I grew up with my grandparents, and they were older. They loved watching sports on television, but because of their age, they weren't going to be out in the backyard playing with me.
Teaching you to throw a curveball.
Right, exactly. So my uncles were really big and instrumental in being able to come and kind of mentor me and work with me and teach me, to be athletic. They sent me to a few sports camps, like there was a week here or a week there, but it was more of a camp type format.
It was more like getting together with buddies and having the experience, not trying to get that exposure and like it is
today.
There
was none of that. I mean, this was strictly just about out here having fun or learning the game, And so when high school, as I got into, I went to a middle school that really encouraged lots of different kinds of sports, all kinds of different games. We played flag football first. My first real experience with football was in flag football in fourth grade.
Excellent.
And that was at the middle school level. And then, we moved into seventh grade. A guy came to me and said, geez, you're a big kid. You need to play football. And I said, well, I've never played football before. And he said, well, I'll teach you. And so before I knew it, somebody had taught me to play the game of football. And by ninth grade, I was a starter on the varsity of my high school team.
Wow. Well, you're a pretty big guy now. I mean, have you always been a big guy?
Yeah. I mean, when I was 15, I was 6'3", 245 pounds.
Whoa.
So I ran a 4.7 40, and I played middle linebacker and played offensive tackle, was the punter on my high school team. So I went to a very small high school team. I was a very high school. I mean, our high school was a 1A high school.
Were you here down in
Tampa?
Florida? Tampa.
And probably a school of, Berkeley Prep, and you've heard of. Now they're kind of a sports. They're always been an academic school, but really a sports power now. At the 2A and 3A level.
Nice.
But back then, we were on Davis Island, and we were in this old hotel on Davis Island in Tampa. And, we had to borrow a sports field to go practice on a baseball field at the local park.
Oh,
That's where our football practices were. Okay.
That sounds like my semi-pro days.
Yeah, that's right. And so, I mean, we didn't have facilities. We didn't have a field. We didn't have really good locker rooms. At that time, we were like in an old hotel that had been refurbished and the whole thing like that. And, over time, they built a new school, which is now located in Town and Country. And they encouraged us back then to go play high school football. I played high school football. I played soccer. Either was soccer or basketball at the time.
Right.
And then it was track or baseball. And so a guy said something to me really bright one time. He said, John, if you're going to be a good athlete, you want to put your sports together. He says it doesn't make sense to do football and maybe wrestling and then baseball because none of those muscles work together. And I sat and I thought about that one day and I said, well, you know what? If I did football and I did soccer and I did track, all those muscles work together. Lots of running, lots of quick reflex muscles, lots of stick your foot in the ground and turn and agility. And what really happened was, as a big person, I was fast, I was quick, I was able to move, I had agility that other guys my size didn't have. So immediately I stuck out on the football field, and that was, I started in varsity soccer and I ran track and field and threw the shot put, and I was the largest guy running the 200 and 100 meters you've ever seen. I was 6'3", 245 running it like, but
grease lightning too.
And these guys that were really fast ran right by me, from the Frostproofs and the Bookers. And they were really good track athletes. But what they always said was is it didn't matter, John, because you're a football player and you're training to get faster. So it didn't matter whether you were a track star. It mattered whether you really
made progress.
And that was the way I always treated it. I treated soccer and track as my way of, really trying to improve my football speed and agility. And that translated into a lot of success. And in my senior year, I was voted the most valuable player of the conference.
Wow.
I made all county and all state, made the blue chip, which at that time, there was only one magazine other than Street and Smith that ranked high school players. And that was called Blue Chip Illustrated. That was back in 1984. So I'll give you away my age. I'm 48 years old. And,
the age thing always has to come out.
So anyway, on my back, right. So anyway, that at that time, Blue Chip Illustrated said, hey, this kid can play college football. And, and that's how it happened. And that's what happened.
What happened?
So out of a 1A school, which is kind of my recruiting story, we had a coach that was a part-time coach. He worked at a local public school, and he would drive in at 4 o'clock. So we never had a coach that was on campus.
Oh, okay.
Nor did we have a coach that was really that interested in putting us at the next level.
He was just taking care of business.
While he was at the school. And you find that at schools today. I mean, you find schools that, the guys come in and, they're kind of rent-a-coaches or they're volunteer coaches.
Even the full-time coaches, some of
them are really not interested in doing anything other than winning football games for their schools, and they're not really interested in the afterlife of the athletes. So in my case, we did not have a full-time coach that was really interested in our, first of all, nobody had ever gone and played college football from my school. So nobody really had any experience in really pushing guys ahead to do that. Okay?
Nobody to really look at and follow either because it hadn't happened yet.
And second of all, the film, we went from reel-to-reel film, the 8mm, to Betamax. Okay, so Betamax, for all those people that don't know, is like the
shoe boxes
and the cassette tapes. And so you put the Betamax and you film it on this big camera and then you push it in there. Well, I had nobody at the school that could cut a Betamax film and turn it in. So I started getting letters my junior year because of being in the newspaper and having full-page articles written about this 1'8" kid who's size of a college athlete.
Right.
Because back then, my size was big.
That was huge.
Yeah. So, they saw me as a college prospect, Division I college prospect. So I started to get letters in the mail like a lot of kids do now.
The natural blue chip type of thing, because you were literally a blue chip. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So I got letters from 17 Division I schools. I got schools from the University of Tennessee. In fact, seeing this right here reminds me, University of Tennessee was the biggest recruiter of me. In fact, Bill Bates is a friend of mine, and I kid him all the time that on the cover of everything that I got from Tennessee, because he was 4 years ahead of me, was Bill Bates and Willie Galt and Reggie White and Tony Robinson and all these guys that all played for Tennessee. And Tennessee sent me 16 letters, okay?
Wow.
And I still have them in a file.
Nice.
I got letters from UCLA, Nebraska, the Armed Services, and all these different schools. And they all asked for the same thing. Can we see a copy of your transcript? Well, my transcript was great, okay? Then they said, can we see your film? And I said, I don't have any film. And they're like, what do you mean you don't have film? I said, well, we did it on Betamax, and we don't really have any way to cut it.
Yeah,
so
hard
I have
to edit
nothing
Betamax.
I have no way to show you this stuff. And so anyway, they said, well, why don't you fill out the questionnaire? So I took my questionnaires in from all these schools. I laid them down on my guidance counselor, not my coach, but my guidance counselor. And she said, John, you don't want to go to those schools. Those schools aren't going to offer you a quality of education. It's not really the schools you want to look at. We want to guide you in a different direction. So literally, I have questionnaires from 16 Division I schools unfilled out in an envelope at home.
Wow.
And part of the problem is my mother knew nothing about football. Right. So you have a parent who knows nothing about sports or what to do or what the process is. No way to really get her educated because there was nobody at the school that was really there to educate her.
Right.
And, we had questions, but nobody to really give us help. And so who do we go to by normal progression? Your guidance counselor. Your guidance counselor is not going to send you to a football school.
No.
They're going to
they're looking at the academics.
They're looking at the academic, right, because they're thinking career and they're thinking about this and that. So bottom line was, I applied for 5 schools. At the end of the day, I was recruited by William & Mary, Davidson, Colgate, Dartmouth, and I decided to go to Davidson. And it was I went on all my visits, and the reason I picked the school, which is always the wrong reason that you'll hear, right? Which you hear mistakes and kids make all the time.
Absolutely.
I was 17 years old. My girlfriend was close by. Okay.
That's the number one reason. Yeah.
Okay. Second reason was I had a friend that I used to do some summer stuff with when we do some backpacking together, and he was on the football team, and he encouraged me to come. So what happens when I get to the school? My girlfriend breaks up with me, and my friend doesn't want to be my friend anymore, right? So here I am at a school where I don't even know why I showed up there, okay? But in my limited time at Davidson, I was able to make the travel team as a 50-man. I was a true freshman, 17 years old, second string. We played Division I AA football at the time and had a 3.5 grade point average and had 42 credit hours to transfer after my freshman year. I made the starting team going into spring after the spring game. And I called the coach one day and I said, you know what, I just can't do this anymore. I don't want to be here. And they said, well, where are you going? I said, well, my next door neighbor is encouraging me to go to the University of Florida because it's closer to home and they're going to be in need of some football players because they're going on probation in 1984.
Oh, yeah. So, one man's junk is another man's treasure.
Right. So I went up to the University of Florida and I called on the school and they introduced me to the football department after going through the academic side. And they said, your transcript looks great. Let's introduce you to the football team. And next thing I know, Charlie Pell sends me a letter and says, we would love for you to become part of the Florida Gator football program. So I got my stuff together. I went up there and, became a Florida Gator.
Found a home.
I found a home. And what typically happens to a kid when he transfers is you go through that sort of, got out of one program, get into another program, and you go through that process. And what really happened to me that I think happens to a lot of kids, but you don't hear about, is you go in there with the best intentions. You think things are going to go great. You have all the athletic ability, and something goes wrong with an injury. Okay?
Boy,
and
just like that.
Just like
change.
that. So I'm in the weight room, and I didn't get injured playing football. I got injured lifting weights.
Oh.
So I was in a squat rack, okay, and I had 2 bones in my back break. Okay, literally crack, and my spine became, the spine became, unstable, and they had to do fusion surgery. And back then, if you did fusion surgery, it was 40% success rate. And Dr. Linda Cotto said, if you get hit on this, you could be paralyzed. And we had to make a decision: what was more important?
Wow.
So there I went from being a star player 2 years earlier, the #1 player in my conference, to going to play for an SEC school, finally getting to a school that I thought I should be able to play at. High-profile program at that time, and having a freak injury take my career out.
And you did, and it's not like you see that coming. I mean, knee, concussions, things, game-related. You don't see yourself getting taken out of the sport you've always been in, working out.
I could have worked. I played sports my whole life, and tore ankles, contusions, and broken
stuff.
Everything you do, right? None of it takes you out of your sport. When you have a lower back injury,
that's it,
or a neck injury, and they tell you can be paralyzed, if you take another hit from that, it ends your career. And that was hard for me to be able to sit in that stadium, year after year and watch those games, which now I'm going on my 27th year as a season ticket holder, as an alum, okay? But to see those games and wish and know that you could have played, not because you couldn't play, but because your back couldn't let you play.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, you had it here, you had it everywhere, but you just didn't have the cooperation in the spinal area.
Now, the one thing that was really great about, the school I went to, and I went back to my high school, and I went back to talk to my people, and I talked to my family, and they said, look, the bottom line is you're in a good school. Right. Focus on your grades, focus on your education. And that's what I did. And instead of working in the off season training for football, I went and got an internship with a bank. And that bank is the bank that I've been working for now for 27 years.
Perfect example. And we talk about this all the time, John. We talk about life after sports. And it could be one day after you get out of high school. It could be 20 years down the road after an illustrious NFL career, whatever the case may be. You just don't know. But you have to prepare for that. And today's youth, it's all about the glory. It's being on ESPN. It's money. It's swag. It's ego. You don't hear in the recruiting circle, you just don't hear enough emphasis put on go to college for college.
Right.
The sport, yes, it could be a means to the end.
Right.
It might be a way to get there, but you still should go to college, look at the campus, look at the class size, look at the classes, look at everything, because at the end of the day, you got to go to college, and you want to see what it's going to benefit you in the event that your sport is taken away. And you're a perfect example of how good things can happen even in that bad situation.
Absolutely. I mean, if it hadn't happened, if that injury hadn't happened to me, and I wouldn't have met my wife at the University of Florida. I wouldn't have these 3 beautiful kids that I have. I wouldn't have this job, because this is a job I received when I went to college and in my junior year, and I've had the same job, and now I'm working on 27 years at the bank. And what I would tell you, is having a son right now who's a senior, who's in the recruiting process. The first thing we do when we go to a school is I tell him, when we get out of the car, you trip and you fall and you tear your ACL. Okay? And you cannot play. Okay? So let's not even think about the football situation. Let's just go over and let's go to the dorms. Let's see if the dorms are where you want to live.
Right.
Let's see if the cafeteria is the kind of food you want to eat.
Sure.
Let's go look at the classrooms, the hall rooms, the facilities. Let's talk to some of the kids. Let's go talk to the engineering kids, because you want to be an engineer. Let's go to the engineering. Let's talk to the engineering kids. Let's talk to them what it's like to be an engineering student here, not what it's like to be a football. We'll go to the football place at the end of the visit. But I'm going to go visit the whole school and talk to everybody else first, because you're just one injury away from your career ending, right?
That is such a smart approach, too, because you figure if you like the college aspects and then you go and you talk to the football coach or whatever, and you like the football, well, then great. You know it's a good match. If you go and talk football first, or whatever the sport may be that you're going to, and you like the program, and then you go and look at the college and everything else stinks, it's tearing you apart a little bit. Tell you what, let's take a pause. Okay. Let's go on break. We're going to talk about a few things, and we'll be right back. Please stay tuned in. If you're serious about your recruiting process, you need exposure, plain and simple. Download the ViewRecruit mobile recruiting app today and be part of the #1 high school athletics and college coaching network. Get it today on iTunes for your iPhone or iPad. The ViewRecruit mobile recruiting app. Recruiting at your fingertips. All right, and we're back. Hey, thanks for tuning in. I'm Roger Tillis, your host here at The Breakdown, still joined by Chuck Olesker and our very special coach, our very special guest, Coach John Awad.
That's right.
You know, it's funny, during the breaks, we always get into some of the best conversations, and really, in this case, it was great information that you guys needed to hear. So we were like, wait a minute, before we get into this in-depth conversation, let's share it so you don't have to repeat it. But anyway, so again, thanks for tuning back in. We are going to have some fantastic information to share. And you know, it's funny, you know, Chuck, I mean, this is our job. I mean, we do the education aspect of recruiting. We help the kids and the parents understand the process so that they can get out there and get at it and hopefully get that exposure that they need, but understand the recruiting process. But, you know, we're kind of like the parents telling the kids what to do. You know, after a while, it's like, well, it's your business. You're supposed to do this. That's why we like bringing in the people, as they say, from the horse's mouth. No offense intended there, but you know, it's good to hear those who are in the know, who have experienced at different levels, and that's the beauty of having John here today. John's experienced it as the athlete. He's had involvement as the coach, as the parent. You know, his sons who are going through the process. So this is fantastic. So again, we're delighted to have you here, John.
Now, it's been fun. I've been excited to be here all day.
This is fun. We love to do this.
We do.
Now, here's something I want to ask you, and I'm always it's something that I love asking athletes who are a wee bit older, not old, just wee bit older. Go back to the '80s and whatnot, and I mean, you've seen lacrosse, soccer, football. I mean, you've seen all the different athletes in today's world.
Yes.
And the attitudes that are out there today, as opposed to back when you played. And I think back in the 60s and 70s when I played, and I see quite a difference. What's your take on like how the attitude of today's youth athlete as opposed to back when we played?
Well, there's a couple of things that I think are different. One is I think that on an overall basis, kids are more competitive in general because they're being pushed harder by the parents that want them to be more competitive. So they're getting involved in more and more things. And from that perspective, there's a lot more burnout. There's a lot more stress. There's a lot more things that I don't like what I see because
lack of fun.
I see kids not playing multiple sports, which I think brings out the best in them. I'm a firm believer that if you're a football player, you should play lacrosse and then you should go do track, and you should have the summer off for a little bit of time so you can enjoy some time with your family and all those things. And there's just too much going on. I mean, kids are getting stretched big time. So that, I think, is different than when I grew up, where I didn't have summer camps to go to that was one combine, or, like in lacrosse, my son has a tournament every single weekend in a different location around the state of Florida. Okay. And parents are having to spend money on travel, and it's stressing them out. And it's stressing the kids out because they're going to have to play five games in a 2 weekend, and then they've got to get back and get ready for practice on Monday or go to school, or so I mean, I think there's the demands on the kids are a lot higher. The demands by the parents are a lot higher. Okay. So that's one thing. The other thing I think is that you have some kids who have had good training and good coaching. They are fundamentally way ahead of a lot of kids that haven't had good coaching or haven't good. There's not as much consistency in the coaching going on.
I agree.
So I mean, I see kids that maybe are a good athlete, but they haven't been trained for that sport specifically, and so they may be way ahead or way behind. So there's this big dispersion of kids that their talents are all over the place. You have a kid in baseball who all he does is play baseball, and he hits, and goes to the batting cage every night, and he's constantly doing. And then you have a kid that just shows up.
Right.
That kid that just shows up is at a severe disadvantage.
Sure.
And then his parents are at a disadvantage,
Right.
and then the team's at a disadvantage, and so all those things kind of work against and towards, kids' attitudes.
Right.
Parents get upset.
Well,
people don't think it's fair.
And that kid has a different direction of burnout because he's at the bottom of the pack.
He's frustrated.
And so he figures, I can't compete with that, so why bother? And so they get disinterested very quick.
Or disenchanted.
Right. Big time.
And I see a lot of kids quitting. Okay, I see kids quit baseball at 12. I see kids that, I see kids that quit football right after JV football in high school because they don't want to, they don't even like the coach. They don't like the way the coach is treated.
It's just a constant beat
It's just a constant beat down. It's a browbeat, So the kids that are really committed, that have had good nurturing coaches, that have good nurturing parents, that sort of balance out their lives, they tend to be more successful athletes right now, in my opinion.
Sure.
The ones that are, at 10 years old, they're going to be the next Tim Tebow, or at 10 years old, they're going to be the next, great baseball player, or the next great whatever. I mean, come on. Nobody drafts these kids right out of 10 years old into the major leagues. So, I mean, parents, I think, from an education standpoint, need to be a little bit more realistic with the kids. I mean, and that's the attitude. The attitude of the parent tends to come through the kid pretty quickly. I mean, you see that a ton. Okay.
Yeah.
What I also do, because I coach, you call it semi-pro, we call it NFL development.
Right.
Okay. I call it second chance football. Okay. Is one of the things that I see there is a total lack of commitment of people holding these people up.
Right.
And I see it at the Pop Warner level, especially at midget and junior midget, which is 7th, 8th, and 9th grade.
Right.
If those kids don't make their school team, they're kind of throwaways.
Sure.
I mean, really, in their community.
Sure.
They don't get a lot of people to their games. They don't get a lot of sponsors. They don't get a lot of people supporting them.
Coaches know that they only have them for 1 or 2 years, and that's it.
And, they're 160 pounds or whatever, and they're not going to play and blah, 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 blah in high school or college. Or they're not the meal ticket for the family to get them out of there, whatever their financial issue is. So I see a lot of that. And at our league, the development league, we wish that we had more support from the families that were behind a lot of our players, because these kids are good kids that for whatever reason didn't get a college opportunity or didn't get a chance at the next level, but still have the desire to want to do it.
Sure.
So, that's volunteer football they're playing, okay?
Right. No, I understand that.
And they have the desire at 18, 19, 20 to keep playing, and they kind of need the nurturing and the support and the people to keep caring about them. And I see that as being a big issue, is that it really takes a lot of support, whether it be recruiting, whether it be playing, whether it be, I can just tell you, the booster clubs are all in need of help. I mean, there's volunteerism required in every sport now. And whether it's money or time, it requires a lot of people to be committed. And some people are committed, some people aren't committed, and it's very uneven, which translates into very uneven play of the way the kids are.
Well, even in the high school level, when you get into when you talk about the boosters and the volunteers and whatnot, it depends on how active the kid is. For a lot of the parents, well, if the kid doesn't get to start or if he doesn't get to play much, all of a sudden they stop showing up at their turn in the concession stands, and that you've seen.
Listen,
that.
It happens in our league. If a kid, for example, a guy's been a starter in week 2, and somehow he may have to rotate in week 3. He doesn't come to practice.
Yeah.
And his answer is, well, if I'm not going to play, why should I come to practice? So the concept of team, right?
Probably escapes a lot of
them.
Well,
no, it's been what I would say is, back in the 80s, getting back to your question originally, is what's the difference in the attitude? I think team concept mattered a lot more. Back in the 50s, 60s, 70s, the individualism of how I feel is now involved in sports, where back then it was what's the team concept? Team matters most, right? There's an old saying that there's no I in team, but there's 2 in idiot. I don't know if you've heard that.
No, and I haven't heard that.
I haven't heard the extension part. I like that.
Yeah.
Write that one down.
So, I mean, a lot of people act like idiots out there because they're not thinking about team. They're thinking about I, and they do stupid stuff, and it gets them into trouble. It gets them into trouble with their grades. It gets them in trouble in school. It's drugs. It's alcohol. It's issues that
violence.
I mean, you just read about it. I mean, there was a guy at the University of Florida just this week. He's been arrested twice in the last 5 months. I mean, those kinds of things. Blown opportunities. I mean, as people tell me all the time, it takes 30 years to build a reputation, about 30 seconds to destroy it.
Yep.
Okay? I mean,
and what you said is so true. Back, in the day, the team actually helped define the individual.
Absolutely.
Which was fantastic. Today, it is, matter of fact, the team to most is just a means to their next step. Well, eventually you got to kind of stop and look around and realize, well, maybe this is your next step. Enjoy it. Our big mantra is enjoy the ride. To get into college, and when you're in college, enjoy it. But
well, sports is fleeting, okay? And if you don't enjoy the successes, if you don't treat each practice like it's kind of like the Super Bowl or the best game you ever played.
Exactly.
I mean, it's a building process. Every sport is a progression. I mean, you get better every day. The more you sharpen the axe, the more easier it is to cut the wood, okay?
Yeah.
You just don't show up. I mean, I tell these guys all the time, you just don't show up on Saturday and play. I mean, you have to work before you get there. The real game is played during the week, so the games are easy.
Right.
Okay.
Right.
You make practice hard, so the games are easy.
I tell you, looking at the attitudes, and some of these kids. I mean, and I hate to keep saying when I did it. I am aging myself, but it doesn't matter. There's probably still individuals today that do this as well. I loved practice.
Right.
I would dive. If it was baseball, I'd be laying out in the outfield. I went 100% every play in practice. There was no tanking. And for some of us, you didn't know if you were going to play in the game. So you damn well better put all your effort into practice.
Well, Roger, I'll never
forget
when I got to college, okay? When the first time I stepped on a college football practice field, the coach walked up to me, and, at that point, I was a tweener. I mean, I was a big middle linebacker coming in, okay? But I was a tweener for a lot of other positions, okay?
Sure.
And the guy says to me, coach says to me, he goes, what position do you play? And I go, any position you want me to play, coach.
There you go.
As long as I can get on the field, I'll do anything you need me to do, okay? And he said, well, I need some help at offensive line. And he goes, would you be willing to play in offensive line at 6'3", 245? I said, all day long.
Yeah.
And so I went over there. And I mean, I gave it everything I had, and I had the guy I went against was a first-team JUCO All-American, and he kept saying to me, "Why are you hitting me so hard?" He goes, "This is practice," and I go, "Because I'm trying to get better, because I want to play." I go, you have a starting position. I don't. I want to get in the game. I want to play. I use this as my opportunity to get better so that coaches have confidence in me so that they can trust me to put me in the game.
There you go.
And that's the bottom line.
That is the bottom line. That's what practice is to improve, to get better, but you got to show your wares, and that's the way it is.
Coach has to trust you on the field or he's not going to play you. This is not mandatory play,
Right.
After Pop Warner, after JDL, or the Y. I mean, it's not mandatory play. So if you want to earn the trust of your coach, that's how you do it. You earn it in practice.
Sure.
Just an aside on Pop Warner. The one thing I would tell you that I love about Pop Warner, and this, I don't coach Pop Warner, but I did. The two things that they do that I really like from a youth sport is they don't give any individual awards. The only award for sports.
Right.
The only award they give is for academics.
Right. Yeah.
So if you're a good student, they'll recognize you.
Which is outstanding.
Okay, and to me, that's really important.
Sure.
I mean, it's stressing the most important thing.
And it's funny, you bring up a good point because we get involved a lot with different associations and whatnot. We've got a great association in Utah, the Highlanders. Hey guys, they're probably watching. They love it. They love everything we do.
Great.
Well, they actually put things in place where that's exactly what they do, and they award them like a little Highlander Shield award, and it's all about academics and also their community involvement. And they put a certain requirement for these kids that if they don't get that, if they don't achieve that, they're not up to playing ball for them. And I've never seen an association that turns it around to that degree. Yeah. And I wish we had more of that.
Right.
Because
Absolutely.
that's what I think as a society, we need that.
No question about it. And with athletes having the biggest impact, I mean, as an example, Tyson Aluwalu, who plays for the Jaguars, is a very close friend of mine.
Great guy.
He came this week to our game, the Florida Falcons game at the Stingrays. He came and signed autographs. He came and spoke to the team beforehand. He did the coin toss. He stayed an extra hour and took pictures with the kids. I mean, he's willing to go out in the community and meet people and talk to them.
And he seems like he likes it,
too.
He
really does love it.
He's enjoying the ride.
He's enjoying the ride. And he was a guy that was projected as a 5th-round draft pick who ends up being the 10th pick in the 1st round. So what is he? He's grateful. He is grateful, and he gives it back because he's the kind of grateful guy that,
got to give it back.
You got to give it back. Absolutely. And if you're a good athlete, I mean, that's one of the reasons, even at my age, and I have a full-time job, the reason I'm a volunteer coach in all these different organizations is because I believe that it takes men, strong men and women like us who have successful businesses.
Sure.
Instead of going on a boat or playing golf, we should be out on a field helping young people.
Sure.
That's just how I want to spend my free time.
And I tell you what, it helps us hopefully control at least one small part of the future.
Right.
And it's funny, with ViewMySport.com, we actually have a segment where it's called Athletes Give Back. And it's all about the athletes, the teams, the coaches that are out there promoting themselves in the community and helping and, not doing it because it's a school requirement, but doing it because it's the right thing to do and because it does feel good. So hearing it from, again, the horse's mouth, the guy who knows, I mean, great example. It doesn't stop at high school. It doesn't stop at the collegiate level. By God, it helps define you as a person.
Absolutely.
Take the time to do it. Tell you what, we're going to take another quick break. When we get back, more good stuff from Coach John Awad and Chuck Olesker and myself, Roger Tillis. Stay tuned. There are thousands of high school athletes that want to play at the college level. They just don't get noticed. At ViewMySport.com, we get your game out of the shadows and into the college spotlight. It's fast, easy, best of all, it's free. In the time you can text your friends, you can create and send your own athlete profile to as many colleges as you want. Get to the next level. Visit ViewMySport.com today and follow the 3 simple steps. Why wait? Your competition's not. We're back. Hey, thanks again for tuning in here to this edition of The Breakdown. Having a great time today. I'm Roger Tillis, your host. Chuck Olesker, still here. And
Can't get rid of me.
Our very special guest joining us and imparting wisdom with us is, of course, Coach John Awad. And we're having a great time today, picking up some great information and hearing your stories, again, helps so much. These people out there that are like, oh, gee, I went through that, or boy, didn't know that could happen. I mean, if that's how the information that you need to know sinks in, hot dog, more power to you.
Right.
Tell you what, before we continue, though, we want to talk about our very important Athlete of the Week, the ViewMySport.com Athlete of the Week. Chuck, take it away.
Thank you, Roger. Representing Mayfair High School in Lakewood, California, which is in Los Angeles County, is Ashley Villalobos. She's a midfielder, and she also runs track. She's class of 2015, and girl, she's getting it on. So congratulations to Ashley for being ViewMySport.com's Athlete of the Week.
Way to go, Ashley! Yeah, and Chuck, you pronounced the name. You didn't stumble. And we got our little geographical lesson in there.
That's right.
Every time he announces it, we get to find out a little bit about the area that they're in.
That's right.
Ashley, fantastic job, and thanks for using ViewMySport.com to peddle your skills and what you've got to offer the college coaches. College coaches, you better be paying attention. This girl obviously is a catch in the classroom and out on the field, and it appears on the track too.
Absolutely.
Speed is awesome. Keep working at it, Ashley. If there's anything that we can do to help, you know how to reach us. Just click to contact us on the website, and we'll be more than happy to help in anything that you need. All right, now, with that said, let's jump back into some more stuff. John, I wanted to ask you, I know you've got 2 sons, 3 sons?
I have 2 sons. 2 sons? One that's 18 this week and one that's 15 and one young lady who's 12.
And of course with the wife, she counts as 2, so there's no democracy on the men's side of that family.
That's right. Well, I have a firm saying in the coach's household is if mama's not happy, nobody's happy.
That's right.
Okay.
Absolutely.
That's the first thing you got to remember.
That's right.
All right, John, let me ask you now, as far as, with your boys, and again, you're kind of wearing two hats. You know, you're the coach to a certain degree with them, and actually have been the coach with them, but you're the parent, you're the dad, you know, and now you're, you know, playing the role of the you know, where do I fit in as far as recruiting and all that? I mean, from an advice standpoint, I mean, what's the number one, you know, you sit your boys down and you want to give them just one nugget of wisdom. What is it that you're going to share with them?
I think the biggest thing for my kids is been to, and I think it's for any kids, is to make sure that they're realistic about what their ability is and what their options are. Mm-hmm. And so one of the things that, you know, I've explained to kids all for my whole life is that the odds of you going in basketball, football, and baseball from high school to the pros is about 2%. Okay.
That's probably being generous.
And that's probably being generous. Okay. So the odds of you making a lot of money, okay, being an athlete, mm-hmm. are pretty slim. Okay. So first of all, you need to do it because you love the game and you're willing to put in the time, energy, and commitment.
Right.
If you're going to play college sports, it is a major commitment. Okay?
Oh, you bet.
Major commitment. Okay. So with my kids, it was, what is your level of commitment? Are you interested in your sport basically helping you to get to a better school, to maybe have a better career? I mean, how is this going to help you? Mm-hmm. So in some cases, we've sat down and talked about, okay, are you a Division I athlete? Are you a Division I AA athlete? Are you a Division III athlete? You know, where are you on that?
Sure.
You know, so there's a lot of ways to do that. There's some guides out there that say prototype. If you're going to play football, this is what you ought to look like. If you're going to be a linebacker, if you're going to be, there's a lot of kids that I run into that are, say, and I've got them on my team in the mm-hmm. development league, right? They're 6 foot, they're 200 pounds, and they're playing center, and they want to know why they don't get a, you know, Division I scholarship for playing center. Yeah. So, well, because they're looking for 6'3", 250, okay? Right? So, I mean, in realism, my son, who happens to be a middle linebacker, fits the prototype of a Division I AA, mm-hmm. Division III, you know, middle linebacker.
Sure.
And, you know, he's got a 3.5 grade point average, and he wants to be an engineer. When we went to the University of Florida and we talked to the walk-on program, they said they loved his film. They would love for him to come in on the walk-on side, okay? When we sat down with the coach and we said, how many engineers do you have on the football team? And he looked at me and he went
I was
like
say,
this.
Probably none.
0, okay? So he said, if your son's interested in being an engineer and he's interested in spending a lot of time in the classroom and being in labs and doing all this stuff, he might want to consider a different avenue for education. The highest percentage of kids that are playing playing college football for us have, you know, degrees which they have some balance with. They can get some flexibility, okay?
Yeah.
So
I wouldn't think engineering would be one of those.
Right, or aerospace or any of these other, you know, biology, a lot of the things that require labs and time.
Sure.
And, you know, so it's not to say that there aren't really smart people out there playing Division I football. It's just to say that the level of commitment to school is going to have to balance against the level of the sport you're playing.
Right.
Okay.
And it's gotten a lot more critical.
Right. Well, here's what the general rule is. If you're going to look at Division III football or a Division III sport, okay, for example, mm-hmm. it's probably a 50-50 balance between school life and athletic commitment, okay?
Right.
Division I AA, it's probably like in the 75-25.
Sure.
Okay?
Sure.
Division I sports, I don't care what sport it is, okay? Right? It's 90-10.
I was going to say it might even be higher than that.
Okay. So, I mean, you really have to want to play and have that be your college experience.
I was going to say that's your college life.
That is your college life. Okay. Right. And the education part is what you hope to come out of it with something that's tangible that you can go on and have the rest of your life. Okay. So let's think about what the average student goes through. They start at 18, right, in college.
Yep.
They finish at 21, 22.
Sure.
Right? Mm-hmm. Okay, so that's maybe 4 or 5 years, right?
Right.
They spend from 22 to average age of 83 is the life expectancy of most males now. working.
Still got a little time.
Right? Yeah. So what I tell people all the time is you're going to be working a lot longer than you're going to be playing any sport.
Amen.
So I sat both my kids down, and my 15-year-old who plays lacrosse says, you know what, Dad, I really want to play lacrosse in high school, but I don't think I want to do it in college. So I'm not going to invest in all of the stuff necessary to get a college scholarship in lacrosse because I really want to be a businessman and I really want to do an internship and I want to do all these things that are related to, academics. Okay.
Outstanding.
My other son who wants to be an engineer, we're evaluating football schools based on their engineering program, based on their academic, placement, based on the average starting salary of their graduates.
Right,
I mean, we're looking at different metrics. So what I would tell anybody is when you're evaluating schools is look at the metrics that are important to you based on what you might want to do for the rest of your life and see whether that school can deliver that.
Sure.
Not whether they have a fancy mascot or a nice stadium or any of those things.
All those important things.
I mean, my son's favorite school right now, the school he wants to go to more than anything, believe it or not, is Cal Polytech, which is in St. Louis Obispo, California.
Yep.
And here we are in Florida. He wants to go from one coast to the other. But it's an engineering school that really has a good 1AA football program. They play in the Big Sky, and it's good football, but it's a great school. And I said to him, tell me, this is what I really want to know. I said, if Cal Poly doesn't offer you, what are you going to do? He said, I'm still applying to Cal Poly because I want to go to Cal Poly whether I play football or not.
Outstanding.
So,
good answer.
So to me, that's the answer you should be able to give as a recruitable kid is if they don't offer you, are you still willing to go to school there?
There you go.
Do you still like the town, the place, the environment? Are you going to like everything about the school?
Well, and you're right, John. And what happens, invariably, if you don't take that approach, and we see it all the time. I follow up. I talk to parents, and I'll get emails from time to time. Oh, how is so-and-so? Yeah, they're not there anymore. They washed out now. They're going to, and it's a lot. I'd be curious to see what the percentage of kids that go on scholarship in year one and what happens. What's their life expectancy? You'd be surprised how high the percentages of those. And we're not talking all D1. We're talking just football or college sports in general, regardless of whether it's JUCO or whatever the case may be.
1983, Coach. I mean, I'm the one. I'm a living example. 1983, I made the wrong decisions for the wrong reasons. I had no guidance. My parents didn't walk me through the process properly. I said to myself that if I ever get in a position to be a coach or be a parent of kids that are recruited, I'm going to go through the process with them, at least make them more educated about what their choices are.
Sure, and then
let them choose. I mean,
that's all you can
do. At the end of the day, they've got to decide what they want to do.
No, that's pretty much it. And what's the old adage? You can lead horses to water, but you can't make them drink. And we see that a lot. And a lot of people, unfortunately, when they're asking for help, what they're really saying is, tell me what I want to hear.
Right.
And there's a lot of services and recruiting companies and all. You know who I'm talking about. They're all out there. Their whole thing is telling people what they want to hear to get the money in their pockets. Well, the fact is, some of us, we like to, like yourself, we like to educate them and let them make the proper decision, an informed decision, and it may not be what they want to hear. Boy, nothing worse than having someone that's thinking D1, and you're like, yeah, but like you said, he's 6'2", and he's never going to be D1. Be realistic, like you were preaching. Be realistic
about what your ability is,
and look beyond that. And some of these people
get a good match,
and some of them don't want to hear it.
I'm going to tell you something. I've coached thousands of games. Okay, I talk to 5 to 10 kids a day on Facebook, Twitter. Because I'm on there. As
you
Coach
are on
John
there a
Awad,
lot. I see a lot. Okay. You're probably on there as much as I am.
And I'm talking to people all the time. And you know what? I've never made a penny doing any of it because I give it all away for free. Okay? I do everything I do for volunteer. And what I tell people is the honest truth, and some want to listen and some don't, because what a lot of these people that have agendas, they'll tell them what they want to hear just so they can get them in for the next time.
Sure.
Okay?
Sure.
So the key to you guys out there, prospects out there, is please make sure you know the agenda of who you're dealing with.
Bingo.
Because a lot of, even in the combines, a lot of the, what I would call, that's sort of these cattle calls.
They're just money makers.
They're money makers for the people putting them on. It's no different than any other promotional type gig. I mean, they're telling you that they're going to give you all this exposure, but are they really? And what's the follow-up?
Maybe to Google Earth.
Right.
That's right.
So, I mean, I think there's to your point, my point is, I think we've had more success in sending an email with our profile, making a follow-up call. I mean,
the fundamentals
of blocking and tackling. Like, I mean, on my team, for example, which again, I have 18-year-olds and up, I've recommended to all of them that want to go to college that they get View My Sport, get the View My Sport mobile app, which I think is great, and send those things out and follow up with a phone call and develop a relationship with the coach. I mean, that's the only way you're really going to know whether you have a chance or not.
And really, after that, it's the cards fall where they fall.
They fall where they fall.
Right. You can't pay somebody to change that.
Right.
And you're right. And like you said,
you have to increase your odds by increasing the numbers that you talk to, right? And you have to do it at different levels, often and early. And what I've told my son is, when we go to apply for schools, we're going to do it two different ways. We're going to apply to all the schools you want to apply to, presuming you don't get any football scholarships.
Sure.
Then we're going to apply to all the schools and talk to all the coaches and do all of the things with all the schools that you would go play football at.
Right.
Okay?
Right.
And then we may have to have a couple of schools where, in case you don't get into any of them, you have a couple of fallback schools. So what you have to do is you have to create almost a pool of choices, right? And work them all from different angles.
Sure.
And it's like no other business or no other thing. I mean, it's everything else you're doing. You just
it's fishing. You got to put the lines in put the lines in the water.
Exactly. And the people that think, well, back in my day, right? Okay, if you were good, they found you. Okay. Today, there's so many kids.
Too many good ones.
There's 850,000 kids out there playing sports. I mean, there's too many good ones.
1.2 million football high school players. We happen to know. We verified that today.
Hey, well, and you know what? Which is one of the things a lot of your young people that are watching don't know, is that back in the times of the 60s, 70s, and 80s, okay, Bear Bryant would bring out 250 guys on the team, okay? And he'd bring these guys out, and then so many of them would stick and so many of them would leave, and they'd bring out guys. That's why the scholarship limits now are down to 85, right? So what they've done with Title IX and what they've done with scholarship limits is the pool of players has gotten bigger, but the opportunities have gotten smaller.
Much smaller.
So, I was just listening to Bloomberg on the way over here, and college education inflation is going through the roof, right?
People aren't even going to be able to go to college anymore.
I met with a client today whose son is going to MIT, okay? It's $57,000, no help. Okay.
Bang.
Okay. So what I'm telling, that's per year. Okay.
Yeah.
That's $200,000 for a 4-year education at MIT. Okay. So if you're not eligible, and this is the other message I want to give to your folks, is that if you don't get an athletic scholarship, there are tons of other types of scholarships out there that they should research. Okay. There's scholarships from the Lions Club. There's scholarships from, the local organizations that give out 1,000 here and 1,000 there. Every corporation, even my corporation, gives out a college scholarship grant to employees. Your mom and dad may work for a company that offers that. So, don't just look down one tunnel. Try and open up as many of the choices and tunnels as possible.
I am so glad you said that, because we talk about that all. Matter of fact, on the website, on View My Sports website, we have a financial aid link there on the homepage.
Yeah.
And they can go and put in their data, and it helps match them up and exposes them to all that money out there. I can't tell you how many times I have literally held hands, taken people, via the phone to the website, shown them it. Okay, yeah, that's great. And then I find out they didn't even do anything. They didn't apply. It costs nothing.
Right.
It takes a little time. It's free
money. It is free money. It's one of the few things that I realize that, and what happens is, as a parent, it doesn't jump out at you until it jumps out at you.
Right.
It's like all of a sudden my kid who was 12 and 13, that was playing middle school ball, all of a sudden now is going to college in 6 months, and I'm going, no, wait a second. And you're staring at $200,000, or even in like out-of-state schools, like a big school, like just to go to college today is $25,000 or $30,000, even if you're not playing sports. So parents should look at that stuff regardless whether they have athletes or not.
Absolutely.
I mean, maybe you have an athlete in your family, or maybe you don't have. Like my one son who's not going to play college sports, we got to look at the spot.
You still got to look at the money.
The site's still a good site to look at, right? It's still a free place to find scholarships.
College directories, everything that you need. No.
Right.
But, it's funny, though. A lot of people think, well, yeah, but I know I'm going to get a scholarship. Let's say that the schools are talking to them and they get interest. The fact is that, if you don't go D1, chances are, and a pretty high chance, your scholarship is not going to be a full ride. And we're talking, a very minimal amount of money. Still a scholarship. And you can go out there and play ball, but you still have to find the rest of the money. I can't tell you how many kids and parents, cry about the fact, they gave us a scholarship, but it was only this.
Right. Well, here,
educate yourself and understand that is the way it is. And so you better, like John's saying, you better get on the site, whether it's us or Google or Bing, or I don't care where you find it. Find the other financial aid out there. Guess what? I've never had a parent or an athlete come back after the fact and say, God, we had too much money. I just didn't know what to, I'd shove it in the bank. I didn't know what to do. I mean, I've never had that happen.
Do you know that the only sport that I know of, the only two sports that I know of right now, I think this is right, is basketball and football are the only two full scholarship sports. D1.
Yes.
Okay?
Yes.
So people that say, I'm going to get a D1 scholarship in baseball, what they do is they have a pool of money and they cut it up among all the players.
Sure.
So need-based. Need-based. And you may get a quarter of a scholarship or an eighth of a scholarship. Same thing. I'm hearing this because, lacrosse is huge here in our area.
Sure.
It's
Finally.
It's the fastest growing sport on two legs in this area, okay? And what I'm hearing in lacrosse is, there's all these scholarships available for girls in golf and lacrosse and all this stuff, right?
Yeah.
So I go and I look at it because I have a 12-year-old daughter. I'm thinking, my daughter's potentially can get a scholarship.
They throw that title line out there like it's an unlimited checkbook.
Right. It isn't. Again, it's a limited pool of money cut up among. So even JU, which is our local Jacksonville University, has a D1 lacrosse program. It's still a limited amount of money. So they may give 20 offers.
Right.
But there may only be 10 kids on the team that get actual money.
Sure.
Because they have to decide who they're going to give the money to.
Yeah.
So the whole concept of the scholarship or earning the scholarship really needs to be redefined, so that people understand what's really going on.
Well, and
I'm going to tell you the other thing is I'd love to see the statistic on offers, because if I hear one kid tell me he's got an offer from 40 schools, okay, I've heard it one time, I've heard it 1,000 times.
Yeah.
I got an offer from this school and an offer from that school. When it comes down to signing day, let me tell you something. The only thing that matters about a verbal offer is that when it's on paper on National Signing Day. If they don't send you or fax you something on National Signing Day to fax, you do not have a legitimate offer. They can tell you anything they want to tell you, but until they fax it to your house or your school on signing day to sign, you do not have an offer from anybody.
Excellent message.
That's a good point.
It's funny, we get a lot of questions about I received this letter, and I've had a parent say, we've got X amount of offers. I'm thinking, well, he's a sophomore, offers, and then they look at the letters that come inviting them to camps as an offer. I mean, and that's the thing, that those things a lot of times are just marketing pieces to get you to go to the camps. If you respond favorably with the coaches, and if you can, get that interaction going, it could lead to an offer, certainly.
Right.
But, we also hear a lot about, I've got my profile out with a certain site, and they track views. View My Sport, you don't track views. And it comes right back to exactly right, because views, like letters and everything else, does not equate to a scholarship. It does not even really equate to interest. Someone could view it. That doesn't mean they liked it. So that's fluff and garbage. Don't get all caught up in the ego, aspects.
I see your tool. I don't see your tool as a way to get a scholarship. I see your tool as a way to communicate. And I see your tool is a way for people to take their information, communicate and establish a relationship, and then have a follow-up process in order to know who they're supposed to talk to, how to get their email address, how to get their phone number, and how to set up a repetitive process of developing a communication channel.
Bingo.
And then when the coach says to you, would you like to come up to our prospect camp? And then you go to their prospect camp and then you perform, that all all started out of a communication of using your tool,
and they're all pieces
it's all
put
pieced together.
And that's
so I mean, the one thing about recruiting I would also say, which is important, that's to distinguish, is if you are invited to a prospect camp and you have a legitimate interest in that school.
And when you say prospect, you mean the college
prospect camp.
Very
I don't mean
important,
I don't mean a combine or a showcase. I'm talking about if the University XYZ invites you to their summer camp to come in, and it's a helmet and shoulder pads, or it's a soccer camp, or whatever the different camp is for your sport, lacrosse or baseball, and they want to see you in the college setting performing something.
Right.
Okay.
Away from the parents. Away from the girlfriends.
They want you to come up for the weekend, and or they may have 10 or 11 other schools there that they've invited as a prospect camp. 9 times out of 10, that's a legitimate deal. It's 9 times out of 10, it's something you should do if you're interested in that part of the world or you like that school, because that's going to be your chance to meet the coaches, to have them interact with you interact with them, to see how you perform under pressure away from your college and high school, your high school setting.
Right.
So forth and so on. The other thing is on the film. You and I were talking a little bit earlier about the highlight film.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
Right. So everybody puts their best 50 highlights out there, right? Everybody has their best 50. Let me tell you what my friends who are college coaches have said. First of all, do not send them DVDs because they won't read them. Okay, so you have to take your highlight and you need to upload it onto YouTube with a link. It needs to be embedded into your email, and they need to be able to click on it, and they need to be able to watch about maybe 15 seconds of it, and they either got to like it or they don't like it. Okay,
right.
So the first 3 or 4 plays is what they're going to watch.
That's the hook.
Okay, that's the hook, and it needs to be on a link, and it needs to be embedded in the email, and it needs to be easy for the college coach. I've had college coaches tell me, I get those DVDs with sound and all that stuff, and I throw them right in the trash can because I don't even want to stick them in the machine because it takes too long.
Right.
Okay.
Right. Don't forget, though, viewmysport.com. You can embed those videos on there, up to 6 per profile.
There you go.
You can have it in both viewmysport.com and YouTube. Again, more lines in the water.
Right. Lines in the water, and they click on the link and they watch it. And they watch it for 10, 15 seconds. What they will really want, if they're really interested in you and you're able to establish communication, is they'll want a full film. They want to see you in a full game. They want to see what you're doing when you take that play off. Okay,
what you're doing on the
sidelines. They want to see how you warm up. When a coach comes to watch you, they're not going to come down and make a parade. They're not going to say, "Hey, I'm here to see you." They're going to be sitting up in the bleachers up at the top. I remember a friend of mine was telling me when Steve Spurrier and came to watch him, he was sitting in wearing a coat that you would never recognize him, a hat, sunglasses, incognito sitting up at the, because what he wanted to see is what was the kid doing when he was warming up, what was he doing when he was drinking water, how was he interacting with his coach,
his natural behavior.
What's his natural behavior, and that's what these coaches want to see. They want to see the whole film. So if you're collecting film, ask your coach or whoever it is to kind of, if you can get the whole film, not just cut up the film.
Sure.
Because that's the next phase. Because once they see the cut up, then they're going to want to see the full
real
film.
McCoy.
They're going to see the real McCoy.
Excellent point. And it's funny because a lot of kids, and I think the parents too, they think, put together a highlight film of all my best moments fired out there. And that used to be kind of the general thing. It's changed. It is not like that. Like you said, you don't need a half an hour long music video. Matter of fact, they hate music. The first thing they do is hit the mute button.
They do not listen to music. And the other thing, I'll tell you the other thing that drives them crazy, and I get kids send me their films on Huddle and Facebook all the time.
Right.
And they, "Coach, can you look at this? Tell me what you think." Every one of them that comes in that doesn't have a little arrow or a little thing that shades the body. I don't know what number you are, son. How am I supposed to evaluate this? You tell me you're a defensive end, and I don't know. I can't even see you on the film.
And even if they tell you the number, you can't find them because it's the angle and the distance.
So you got to put an arrow on who you are, or you got to put a shade around you so that makes it easy for the coach. Think about it like this. Think about if you were showing this to your grandmother. Okay, you'd want your grandmother to easily understand what you were doing and how you were doing it. If you can't get her to understand it or see it, some college coach is not going to take the time to do it.
They have too many to look at.
They have too many.
Way too many to look at.
A college coach told me the other day he gets over 250 emails a day. Okay? Easily from prospects.
That's probably a light day.
Right, exactly.
Wow. Wow. Well, I tell you what, we're going to take another quick break. We're going to come back and get some parting words I wish we could drag this on for another couple hours, because I have a feeling that we could really break down.
Hey, I'll come back. How
we're
about
just going to have you again.
No, I'd love
It'll
to.
be John Awad Part 2.
That'd be great.
Stay tuned. We'll be right back.
The goal at Marsh & McLennan Agency is to present you with risk management solutions that offer smart ways to cut costs while still providing quality. Some of the many products and services Marsh & McLennan Agency can provide in the areas of employee health and welfare include evaluate benefit providers based on premium levels, plan design, and network match. Negotiate with group medical, dental, vision, long-term disability, and accidental death and dismemberment providers to bring you a quality plan at a reasonable cost. Enroll employees and their dependents into available benefit options through the use of traditional enrollment, online enrollment, or a combination. Employee assistance programs, and human resource assistance and consultation. Let Marsh & McLennan Agency help you identify, plan for, and respond to critical business issues and risks. For more information, call Marsh & McLennan Agency today at 888-292-9806. That's 888-292-9806.
All right, welcome back. I'm Roger Tillis, your host here at The Breakdown with Chuck Olesker, and again, our very special guest, Coach John Awad. It has been an absolute pleasure having you here. I can't wait to get this show edited and on, because we've talked about so much great information, so much helpful information, and really kind of the life, the life version of some of the things that everybody out there in the recruit land is talking about. We're showing a real life take on some of these things, not just opinions, but what really happens. So, you better get your pen and pencil. This is a recorded show, thank God, so you can go back and write down some of these tips. Believe me, everything you can pick up from the show will be helpful at one point or time during the recruiting process. All right, want to get into something. John, you are very involved as a coach and general manager of the Florida Falcons. Now, for those of you out there that don't know who the Florida Falcons are, again, this is a team in the Gridiron Developmental Football League. It's after high school, during college, before NFL, etc. Used to be way back when kind of the semi-pro leagues, only this has a better take on it. A little more organized, some pretty damn good talent. I tell you what, if you can ever, regardless if you're in Washington State or up in New York or wherever, try to find one of these leagues and really take a look at some of the talented kids, good kids too, good kids. So, John, Florida Falcons. First of all, how did you get involved in Florida Falcons? That's not high school, man. So how did this all happen?
It's interesting. I've been recruited by a number of schools to come coach their teams, and I was a high school coach at the time, and Donovan Darius, who was an ex-Jag here in town, he was their honorary coin toss, and he said, you really need to meet John Awad. And so the defensive coordinator and the owner called me up unsolicited and said, would you be interested in our program? And I said, well, tell me a little bit about it. And he said, well, we're a national league. It's not like a intertown or interstate league.
So Gridiron Development is all over.
It's in 35 states.
Wow.
It's 63 teams. At least that's where we started the year at. They're all individually owned, and they're set up as not-for-profits. Okay?
Nice.
At least our team is set up as a not-for-profit. So you can set up a team for a profit, but then your eligibility of your players is a problem, because you can't then push them to – they're not an amateur status anymore.
Right.
Okay? So our team has been in Jacksonville for 7 years, and we've actually been in a couple of the different leagues. This is now what you would call the AAA, like if it was a baseball analogy.
Right, gotcha.
This is sort of the highest division of developmental NFL football that exists in the nation. Okay. We play NFL rules, NFL officials. We play with NFL football. We play 4 quarters of 15 minutes. The games take about 4.5 hours, which is about an hour longer than a high school game.
Yeah.
Okay. And, we started the year with about 63 guys on our roster. And it is what we do is we're a not-for-profit. So we're volunteer coaches. We're volunteer staff. We're volunteer general manager. Okay.
For the love of the game.
For the love of the game, right? It's working man's football. Okay.
Gotcha. Outstanding,
and so, but the real reason that I got involved was because I really believe in that there is a gap out there between high school and the afterlife of football, meaning, right? I mean, there's Division I, Division II, Division I AA, or subdivision. There's Division III, there's NAIA, there's JUCO, right? There's all these different things available for college-level kids.
Sure.
But what about the kid that wasn't big enough? What about the kid that, you know, maybe had an injury his senior year and didn't get recruited?
Sure. Struggling with grades.
Struggling with grades. Prop 48. I guess they don't know if they call that anymore. But whatever the reason is, that kid didn't go to college. Okay. Or maybe he went to college for 1 year and it didn't work out, and instead of transferring, he came home.
Sure.
Okay. So what we do is, as a not-for-profit, we institute player fees. So each player has to pay a $250 player fee, and they are supposed to go out and get a sponsor. And we have a $35,000 a year budget to run the team.
Wow.
And we use all of the money for facilities, referees, buses,
uniforms,
whatever, and we travel throughout the Southeast. We have a team in Miami. Our conference is called the Gulf Coast Conference, and we have a team in Macon, a team in Gainesville, Miami, Pensacola, and Tifton, Georgia, and us in Jacksonville.
Gotcha.
And we play each other, and then we have a playoff system, which we did make the playoffs.
Nice, congratulations.
So we start our first round of the playoff August 3rd, and they finish with a Super Bowl in Raleigh, North Carolina, in which all the teams play, and then it comes down to an actual national championship.
And when you king of the hill.
Well, and when you win it, you are the national championship of the highest league development. Now, over the last 7 years, we've placed 20 guys, which is either we placed them at the college level, AFL, CFL, and we've had 2 guys with NFL tryouts.
Is that right?
Right. So
wow.
Our primary objective is to help kids that have that are 18 years old. And if they haven't gotten their GED, we'll help them get their GED. We have teachers. We have other people that support our program that are willing to come in and help and mentor. But really what we're trying to do is to give the kids that are high school graduates a chance, who want to play college football, a chance to get on somewhere.
Get back on
track.
So
we invite college coaches. We invite semi-pro. I mean, we invite the CFL and AFL coaching scouts to our games. And so we had 2 college coaches at our last game, and the coach said, "Here, give them the link, let them fill out the questionnaire, fill out View My Sport, send them a profile." So, you know, what I'm doing is I'm using your tool, for example, on my team.
Excellent.
Okay, to get all my guys to set up profiles so that then they can then go ahead and keep marketing themselves.
And do it quickly when they're asked for.
When they're even 18, 19, 20 years old. So, you know, what our goal is to help. Right now, we've got about 8 kids that have college eligibility. Now, something people need to know, because there may be somebody out there 35 years old who's saying, you know, maybe I could do that. Maybe I can go back to college and get it. Because I've seen that guy who's 58, you know, playing wide, you know, right?
That's right. Okay. The 60-year-old lineman at USC.
Right. Yeah. So, well, here's the deal. In Division I football, the clock starts, at 21. Because that's called the Winkie rule. Right. It's Chris Winkie.
Right.
All right. And you have 5 years to complete your eligibility. So if you're Division I, you need to get it rocking at 21.
That's it.
Okay.
Yeah.
So if you're 18, 19, and you're playing in a developmental league and you want to go play college football at the Division I level, you still have a chance to do that.
Sure.
But you got to get her in.
To age 24, 25, I think.
Right.
For
you have 5 years, basically.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So, but at the Division III level or the NAIA level, there is no eligibility time frame. So, I mean, they stop and they start.
Chuck, you still have
there's hope for me. There is hope. And so you know, there is opportunities for guys that, you know, that are still in their late 20s that want to maybe get a college education. That's still an opportunity to get involved in one of these developmental leagues. And
see, that's awesome.
And in my opinion, the GDFL right now is probably the best league to be part of. So if you want to look for a team within the GDFL. In any state.
Let me ask you now, you talk about college coaches coming. Of course, you know, in the world of high school and whatnot, you know, the coaches can only go to certain events and all. Is there anything? I don't think there's anything regulating what they do. I mean, that'd be like saying, no, you can't go in and look in the Kmart parking lot for, you know. I mean,
exactly.
They can do whatever they want.
Pretty much. I mean, I don't know. You know, again, NCAA rules have not specified whether, you know, that they can come to our games and watch and so forth.
There's nothing.
So on.
I checked.
So,
there's nothing.
So I mean, the reality is if you go to one of our games and you'll see the athletes that we have. I mean, we've got some kids that are legit. I mean, I've got a kid kid right now that's in the Navy, which is another good source of players, right?
Nice.
And right now the NFL has dual combines with NFL and military, and they send a lot of their military guys to NFL cities for combines that the actual NFL team does the combine.
Right.
Okay. So this one player of mine's been to 6 of them in 6 different cities, and I mean he's been clocked at he's 6'2 and a half, 210, strong safety. Clocked at a 4.6, and he's 22 years old. He's got a 3.5 grade point average, and most importantly, he has a GI Bill.
Nice.
Right.
So guess what? He doesn't need a scholarship.
Yeah.
He needs a walk-on opportunity.
Right.
So he has already, I've already been contacted by Clemson, by UMass.
I was going to say, he sounds like a D1 guy.
I've got 4 Division I schools that have already contacted me about him that are looking for him because they don't have to spend any money on him. He's got a GI Bill.
Sure.
He's married. He's a guy that's been trained by the military. I mean, he's
never
never been in trouble.
Yeah.
Now,
He's
is he-
mature.
is he-
He's a leader.
Is
I mean,
he
that
out
kinda,
of the military?
No,
or
he'll
is
be out in 2014. So he's going to play with us for this season. He'll play for us next season, and he's looking for a place to go at the end of for the recruiting class for next year.
Outstanding.
So,
That's a success story.
right.
That that needs
Right.
to be in the papers. I mean,
Yeah.
that's a
Yeah.
great. But you talked earlier about commitment, your level of commitment. This is a kid that obviously still has the fire burning.
Right.
Well, they all do because realistically, I mean, it waxes and wanes as everything does.
Sure.
But I mean, these guys, I mean, we're like, I'm going to be done taping with you tonight. I'm heading over to practice, right?
Yeah.
And I mean, my guys have worked all day long at construction, and then they're going to go out there and play football for 3 hours.
That's true. That's
so
true.
I mean, I see this type of commitment by these guys as being serious. Okay.
Sure.
I would like more team concept. Okay. I mean, I think it's important to develop team more than individual. There's still a lot of individualism because you're still talking about 18 to 35-year-old men.
And it's a lot of coming and going there. You got the guys on their way down, on their way up.
Right, exactly.
It's like you said, AAA baseball.
It is. It's very. I mean, I'm going to tell you, when we were on the bus to Macon, Georgia, and you're riding along on the bus.
You think it was Bull Durham?
I'm thinking, and sometimes I got to tell you, it's somewhere between the North Dallas 40 and
there you go.
and the longest yard.
Nice.
Okay,
Nice.
So for a guy that's always coached high school, right, or middle school or Pop Warner, I mean, this has been an incredible experience because you're dealing with people's families. I mean,
Sure.
One of the guys, his 2-year-old got cancer, and we had to deal with that. And
oh, wow.
one guy's father passed away, another one's mother was cancer. My defensive coordinator broke his leg in the 3 spots. You know what I mean?
Jeez.
The real life things that
enters into their equation
yeah. more than it does at the high school level, for sure. I mean, there's a lot more. It's all about step by step there. Here, it's kind of like it's wide open. So
now, what about a grade perspective? Because I would imagine, especially if the kids didn't go to college because it was a great aspect, when you have these kids coming in and they're still, that fire's still burning, but what about the grades? Now, I'm not referring to like the guy in the Navy, but for a lot of them, if they had the grades and they had the talent, then for a lot of them, they should be back. You would think,
right? Well,
so
some of them.
What's that? What's
some
that
of them.
like?
I mean, some of them, like for example, I have a couple of kids that they had grades and they had size. I mean, they had the talent, but what their problem was, they had injuries. So recovering from injuries in order to get them back on the playing field, to get tape on them, so the coaches would have confidence in them to take them after they've had those injuries. That's one of the issues. Okay. Another thing is the kids that didn't qualify or don't have the ACT or don't have what's required. Okay, we've got to figure out a way. So for example,
get them back in the
we
system.
got to get them back in the system.
Yeah.
We got to make sure they're in the clearinghouse. We got to make sure that they have legit transcripts. We got to make sure that we go back to their old high school if we can have things delivered.
Right.
So the answer is we have pretty good relationships with the schools, and I expect to, over the next upcoming years, because this is my first year as the GM volunteering, is to really get with the high school coaches, really get in this area with a lot of the high school coaches and build up. I'll tell you, the 2 premium positions in this league are offensive line, defensive line, and quarterback.
Wow.
Okay. everybody, there's a dime a dozen
receivers and
D-backs and running backs.
You're right.
Okay,
everybody's
offensive
fast.
line, defensive line, and quarterbacks are absolutely the premium position. So one of the things we're going to do as the Florida Falcons organization is have a trench camp in the spring and the fall, invite high school prospects to it, okay, not charge, allow them to come in. If people want to come see them, do it, great. If not, collect a database of names. So that kid that's 6'2", who may not get a scholarship or may not get that college offer he's looking for, and decides to go to UNF or wherever locally, he still can play football and still earn an opportunity to keep playing. So what we're going to do is we're going to develop a prospect base so that we give people a second chance to keep playing. Because I know there's a ton of kids in high school that's their last stop, you know?
Sure.
I mean, I'll also say to you that I think most kids' pinnacle of their success of their career is at high school.
Right. The majority,
majority of them have get the most out of their athletic talent by the time they're, and from college on, it's kind of downhill, except for those select few. So there's an opportunity for a kid that maybe, instead of going downhill or getting weeded out, can continue to play, continue to be excited, continue to have their families come, continue to see, their coworkers see them play. There's a lot to self-esteem that I believe that is important here. It's not just about getting a college scholarship or going on and doing this or that. Sometimes it's just about the self-esteem of the young man or the young woman.
And what they can get out and grow and face adversity. And
we have a cheerleading program.
I've seen the cheerleaders.
Okay,
I looked at the picture a few times.
We have a community outreach program. I mean, we try and give back every home game. We have a different theme for community outreach.
I've seen the firemen in the pink. We did. That was fantastic.
We had a pink day where everybody was in pink, including everybody spatted up in pinks. So that we could do, and we raised money for cancer for a special person that had cancer that we served. We did special needs for special needs kids one day. So every different, when we have a different kind of theme around, and we really encourage our guys to get out in the community, and we have, we'll sell tickets. Our tickets are $8. Kids under 5 get in free. I mean, a lot of families, when they can't buy 4 tickets to go to see the Jags play. So this is an opportunity really for people to come to our program and see NFL. It's community ball. It's NFL football, and for a family of 4, they can go for $50 for a hot dog and a Coke.
Something too. Just to add, we talk about the kids when they get out of high school. The kid that was 140 pounds, and 5'9" when he graduated, all of a sudden a year later he could be 6 foot and 180. I was 135 when I graduated, and I put on, I don't know if it was because of beer and pizza. That was back when you turned 18, you were allowed to drink, so I aged myself a bit. But a lot of these kids blossom. I've seen kids go away and play college ball, as a tight end. And then you're watching them a few years later, and they're a bloody offensive lineman. The growth, the physical, not just the mental, but the physical growth of these kids when they get out of high school is severe. So that kid that, I'm not big enough, washed up, but I kept at it, all of a sudden he comes into his own size-wise. What a catch.
Well, what a catch. And there's stories all through the NBA and NFL of guys that are one-offs in those areas, right? But, you see it in a plethora at the high school level, right? You always see, okay, well, this school only had 4 guys go to play college football. Well, I want to go grab those 10 other guys on the football team that still want to play football. And maybe just need another year of development or another. So I kind of look at it like where junior development for Pop Warner before you go to middle school, before you go to high school. This is kind of like this is like development football before you go to college.
What a great idea.
Or before you go to the next. It fits in a slot, okay? But the most important thing is what we're trying to do is make them men of character and also well-rounded in the community, and realize that they can be different. They don't have to be like all the other guys out there. And that life is not about either, I'm going to go to jail, or I'm going to get into drugs, or I'm going to alcohol or crime. Or we want to show them that there's a positive side to the whole thing. A lot of options. And there's a lot of positive options. And we want to encourage them to meet business people and successful people. And we have seminars, and we have people come in and talk to them. And we have people like Tyson come in the locker room and talk to them. So we're constantly feeding them with positive encouragement, which is outstanding. Which is kind of a ministry for me, and that's why I'm doing it. I like working with all kinds of kids, but this was an opportunity to work with men, You know,
a little bit of a different animal.
Yeah.
A little bit different deal, but in an arena that I'm familiar with.
Sure.
Right. I mean,
sure.
it's, you know, I matched up what I like to do with I think a population that needs this message right now.
Right.
That
right.
18 to 25-year-old age group really needs positive impact.
A lot of
right
them
now.
I tell you, a lot of them in college at that age still feel lost.
Right.
Take the college aspect out.
Yeah.
They're really lost.
Well, I've had a college intern at the bank every year for 20 years, okay, that I've had an opportunity to have a college intern. And I know that every one of those kids that have come through me have learned something more than if they had not had it.
Sure.
And so I see this as just an opportunity, again, for them, whether they're out of college or in college or whatever. I mean, right now I've got 3 kids playing Division III football that are on our staff. They're going to go back to college in the fall better prepared than when they showed up in the spring.
It's like an internship with football.
It is an internship with football, really.
Outstanding. Yeah. Well, I tell you what, I got to ask you one last question before we wrap things up. This is always fun, you know, especially for those that were the athletes, and you know, and of course you've had a pretty fine career. I mean, you know, yeah, you hit some speed bumps, but you got there. You got to the game. You did the things, you know, the way you needed to. It was a crazy path, but you got there. If you could go back, what would you change? Say go back all the way back to high school. Is there anything that you do differently?
Well, I mean, I'll tell you. Let me answer it 2 ways because I
remember your wife's going to see this too.
Yeah,
So
well,
don't even go there.
I'll answer it. I'll answer.
There is this cheerleader there.
I'll answer this 2 ways because I think that one thing is I believe in that you know, that things happen for a reason, and you know, I believe that there's a destiny and a purpose for my life, and part of it was is that I'm actually doing what my purpose is. And I don't know that I would have learned or had the appreciation for being a coach or the appreciation of being able to be willing to give away what my talents are to other people for free,
right?
If I hadn't been through some of that adversity. So some of those things that I'm disappointed by, like I didn't get to play for the Florida Gators because I got injured.
Right.
And I didn't actually, you know, maybe become the football player, athlete I was. Those are the things I wish I could have done. If I could have done something different, I would have loved to play with Emmitt Smith, or I would have loved to play, you know, with the Great Wall in 1984 when we won the SEC championship. And that team that I was on was such a fantastic team with all kinds of great people, Ricky Natil and all those guys.
Oh, yeah.
Kerwin Bell,
every name.
Well, Kerwin Bell, for example, at JU, who's the head coach. He was a quarterback. And he and I were in high school together at the same time. We were on the same team at Florida together at the same time. He and I are friends now.
Right.
In fact, Jordan Smolinski at Bowles is the kid I referred over there who got a scholarship because of my friendship with him.
Sure.
Okay. I mean, those kinds of things, I wish that I had had those kinds of memories. In fact, Lee Humphrey, I don't know if you know the basketball player.
Oh, yeah.
He was my guest this weekend at my house. And he and I were talking, and I was just like, and my kids were like, Lee, what was it like to take those jump shots against Ohio State and again, to win the national championship?
Right.
And he still has the most 3 points in the history of the NCAA. Right? I mean, here's this kid at 28 still playing pro basketball, and he said, "I have so many great memories." Well, I have a bunch of great memories from high school, but I wish I had more great memories from college. But because of what happened to me, because I had to really put my my education first.
Right.
Okay. And I got a good job, and I still have the same job after 27 years.
Sure.
That adversity I went through allowed me to do that. And then it allowed me the freedom to go and coach, which is something I promised myself that if I ever had the chance, I would love to coach kids and give them what I didn't get when I was in high school, which was education, guidance, and all those things. So I look at it like a double-edged sword. There are things I wish I could have done differently, but I'm so happy that the things that happened to me happened to me, because I wouldn't be in this position to be talking to you today.
Lucky us.
So, do you mind if I tell everybody, if they're interested, I'm on Facebook as Coach John Awad, and
write this down.
Coach John Awad. You can look me up. It's Coach John, all one word, AWAD. If you have questions or you want to friend me, please feel free to do that. I also have my own personal coaching site, which is www.championslife.us. championslife.us. It's all free free services, free questions. You can just ask me, and I'm not sending you a bill. Okay?
That's awesome.
Good stuff. Good stuff. Well, John, thank you again so much for being here. We loved, again, we will have you back. I have a feeling we can break down some stuff and really get into it.
Yeah.
But this has been a very valuable amount of information. Again, parents, athletes, coaches, anybody who's watching this, you know, if you feel like you missed something, rewind and watch it again. It doesn't stop here. If there is a unique situation that you find yourself in, if you need information, go to the homepage, www.viewmysport.com. Click on Contact Us. Send over your situation, your questions, whatever it is that we can do to help, we're here to help. We've got a great board of advisors. We have access to fantastic people like John here. We're all in it together. You know, we talk about team. We really do try to put the athlete and your situation ahead of ours. And that's what we're here for. So keep that in mind. Also, go ahead.
You know what I was going to tell you? There's one thing I always tell people in coaching. It's very important. When I talk to my coaches, talk to kids, and this is what I want to tell your audience is, and this is what I'm going to tell you about these two guys, okay? Is nobody cares how much you know until they know how much you care. And I think these two gentlemen care, and that's why when you have questions, don't be afraid to ask them.
Thank you very much. Appreciate it. We love a little kudos.
They
love us. They really, really love us. All right. Well, that's about it here from the Breakdown. We, again, had a great show. We hope that you'll tune in next week. Every week, we are always going to be hosting a fantastic guest with valuable information. I'd like to say thank you to our sponsors, Marshall McLennan. Gosh, we have so many sponsors. Yeah. Actually, I think that's all we have is Marshall. No, I'm just kidding. No, you know who you are. But thanks again. Without you guys, it would not be possible. And I think it is a wrap. Just remember, as you go through the process, enjoy the ride.